Hello, and welcome back. In this video, we'll continue to explore the new while calculation function introduced in FileMaker 18. Specifically, we'll talk about how it can be used to do open-ended summations of JSON data and offer ideas on how flexible and powerful a tool this new function can be. Please note that the content of this video is a continuation of our while calculation part 1 video, also available on our YouTube channel. If you are unfamiliar with FileMaker While function, namely what it is, its syntax, and how it works, then I would highly recommend watching that video first before continuing here. That being said, let's get started. I've got a couple more examples that I want to show you really quickly that I think have some nice business use cases. So since the introduction to JSON functions and the ability to better grab JSON data from APIs and web sources, having this while calculation can be really neat. So over here, I've got some sample JSON data, and whether you've ever worked with JSON or not, that's totally fine. This is actually verbatim from the FileMaker user guide. If you just search for JSON sample data, this is the example that FileMaker gives us. And basically the way that you read this is we have a JSON object. It has a key of bakery, and inside of that bakery is another key called product. And inside of that product, we have an array, because there's these little square brackets, with 3 product items, donuts, chocolate cake, and baguette, in that bakery.product array. That's kind of how we would write that in JSON. So you could, with native FileMaker functionality, do a scripted loop that says grab, the first JSON array item, get the item name, the price, and the stock, and then save those as fields or records in FileMaker. But maybe you don't need or want to do that. Maybe you just want to import data from some sort of JSON source and then run calculations on the data as it is. Well, with the while calculation, that's totally possible. In fact, that's what these are doing right here. So here, total stock quantities is basically saying, hey, find out how many products there are. So in this case, there's 3, and then go through those products and basically sum the stock amount of all products together. And 43, 23, 34, that gives us 100. So if I change this to, say, 40, boom, that instantly changed to 97. And you might have noticed the stock worth changed as well. So if I change this back, the stock worth is kind of like saying, okay, from an insurance standpoint, I want to know, based on the units of products I have on hand and then the retail value or even wholesale value of each item, what is my net liability or whatever at any given time. So that's where you'd go through and say, okay, the unit price for these is $1.99. I have 43 units. So 199 times 43, that gives me the total value of that product that I have on hand. And then you do the same with this, 22.5 times 23 gives me that total value. And you add all these total values together, and that gives you this. So if I do something like take my $22.50 cake, that must be a pretty good cake, and I change it to like $5 per cake, notice how quickly and dramatically that price changed. So that is a very valuable and powerful capability right there. And that's just a simple use of the existing JSON functions and this while calculation. So let's take a look at those. So again, like before, we've got our increment value. Now you'll notice that with JSON, the index of JSON arrays are 0-based, meaning that if I was to get the key of product 1, it is going to give me an index of 0, not a 1 like it would in a returned eliminated list. So this would be index 0, index 1, index 2. So that's why you'll notice here that I want to start my increment with 0 and then increment by 1. Otherwise, I'll always miss that first product. So again, that's one of those little things that, depending on the data you're working with, is just good to know. But that's just how JSON is set up. And then here we've got our JSON list keys where we're saying, hey, bakery.product, that is how you grab this array, bakery.product. It's called dot notation. You can look that up if you want to look up JSON dot notation if you want to learn a little bit more about that. Good stuff there. And just basically say, hey, grab all the keys. So JSON list key, JSON bakery.product, that would give me the 0, the 1, and the 2 as a returned eliminated list. So if we do give me a value count of that list, well, that's 3 values. So that way now we can we can iterate against that list. And then here we have, okay, just like before, I've got my empty output value, give us the value plus an existing value, if any. And then with JSON, if you want to capture a single item, so I want to grab just in this case the stock value, it would be the key, so bakery.product, the square bracket, the index, so this is index 0, close square bracket, and then the name of the value. So we're basically getting here bakery.product square bracket, and then we're passing in our increment value I, and then close square bracket stock. So that right there, if we didn't have all the quotes and the ampersands, that would give me the JSON stock price of 43, right? And then just keep repeating that until we reach our max, and then give us the output. That's pretty much all it's doing. Same thing here. If we go to the stock worth, pretty much exactly the same as what we saw before, same conditions, same variables. The only difference is here we're grabbing two JSON values and we're multiplying them together. So we're saying, yeah, grab the price, grab the stock for this particular product, multiply it together, and add that total amount to the current output. That's really all there is to it. So last but not least, and then we're going to wrap up, all these examples that I've shown so far assume that you have a number that is less than to something else. One of the powers of a while calculation is it does not have to be a set number. In fact, it can literally be something as simple as, like here, I've got my fake email address here in the middle of this text, and I want to say grab all the letters to the right of the @ symbol until we reach a space. So while the letter is not space, add it to our variable. So is this a space? No. Is this a space? No. Is that a space? No. Is that oh, that is a space. Okay, now we stop. So you can even have a while loop on something as abstract as is it literally this or not? It doesn't have to be keep repeating X number of times, like I think a lot of us are familiar with, right? And that, again, once you wrap your head around that mindset, can offer a lot of opportunities. So over here, you'll see I've got this email domain, blah.com. If I change this to some really domain.net, boom, it changes automatically. I don't want to keep you too long here, but just to look at what that's doing. Again, it's not that complicated, really, at the end of the day. We've got our variable for our fields, so we don't have to keep typing the darn field name all the time. We have our starting position, which is basically that @ symbol +1, meaning that I want the first letter after the @ symbol as my starting position. Instead of output, I have my end value called vDomain because I'm trying to get a domain, and I want to append whatever the generated domain to be to www. But then the main thing that's different from the examples I've shown you so far today is that this right here. So instead of saying, I want this to be less than that, here we're saying, hey, if this variable vcode is not the Unicode code for the space character, which happens to be 32, then keep running the loop. Now, obviously, doing something that specific could get you into trouble if you don't guarantee that there's a way that this will ever happen, right? You can get that infinite loop again. So yeah, just something to be mindful of. But yeah, basically that's what this is doing. It's saying, hey, keep grabbing the next letter and adding it to the domain value. So vDomain, and concatenate that letter, and keep going and increasing your position. So grab the next letter, the next letter, the next letter, until we finally get a space. That's essentially all that that's doing. And then down here, this is just making it so the purple text doesn't show up, the text format removed. But really, at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. I hope you enjoyed this video. In it, we continued to explore the while calculation function introduced in FileMaker 18, specifically with how it can be used to provide powerful calculations of JSON data values and ways it can be leveraged beyond simply looping calculation logic a predetermined number of times. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us on our blog at www.codence.com/resources/blog. Jesse Howard, Codence.